Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Nonprofit Diaries, where we share the stories that don't make the newsletter. I'm your host, Kimberly Bottom, and our guest this week is someone that I have been lucky enough to know for years. We've crossed paths at more conferences than I can count. Erik has spent over 2 decades in fundraising. He has raised millions for organizations like St. Jude's, the Boy Scouts of America. He's actually an Eagle Scout himself, so that commitment to service goes way back. Today, he serves as the Chief Community Officer at Avid, and that title basically formalizes what he's been doing all along: showing up, building trust, and connecting people across our industry. But here's what you really need to know about Erik.
Uh-oh.
He's the mastermind behind the Top Gun Takeoff Challenge.
Love it.
The rules are simple. If you take a flight, you watch Top Gun Maverick while your plane takes off, you post that proof on LinkedIn, and Erik will personally assign you a call sign. So
Gosh.
mine is Bedrock. Erik delivered my wings at AFP Icon this year. Thank you,
Excellent.
sir. So to honor his visit to our podcast this week, if you have them, put on your aviator sunnies and salute to the community commander, Erik Ironclad Tamales. Erik, thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, Kim. Really appreciate it. I appreciate the invite, and really honored what you just shared about me. And thank you for having me on here. I thought you were going a different route, not Top Gun Takeoff, but I thought you were going to say the inventor of the standing desk in a hotel
That
room
is another pro tip
with
for
the
anybody
ironing
listening.
board.
So Erik he might be at a conference every week of his life. I'm not sure. That's kind of what it feels like, because he is absolutely just an engaging speaker. He's got such a wealth of knowledge that he is generous enough to share all of that with the world and be on the road 300 days out of the year. But he's come up with some pretty good life hacks. So I'm going to drop Erik's LinkedIn link in the description for this podcast. If you're like, hey, tell me what your tricks are, the ironing board standing desk is definitely one of the good ones.
In front of the window, because now it's natural light, and that, I mean, it's
You don't
very
need a ring light.
strategic on all the pieces. Yeah, as long as the room looks clean. I mean, that's all that matters. And
You got to make your bed. Yeah, exactly. Okay, that's fair. I can't even see your bed, so it could be a mess down there, and we'd never know. But well, I appreciate you being here. Kind of as I mentioned in the beginning, Erik, you have, over 5,000 donor visits in your career. Is that right? That's insane. So you've definitely got stories. You gave me like a little teaser to some of them. Some of them are like heartwarming. One of them's a little frightening. And then there's a woman with a shoe. So let's just let you kind of take this over and start with sharing some of these stories when you have these donor visits.
Thanks so much. The background, my background is a little unique, and I've been deliberate on what I've been doing over the last 20 some years of individual giving, grant building, grateful patient, focus on foundations, a whole host of different areas in tech and agency and other things on the side. But where I really graded it out was like my first job out of college, and I remember taking ownership or leadership of a nonprofit organization. I'll share. It's my fraternity. It's a fraternity foundation, and so. I remember the first day on the job, our president came to me from our board and was like, Erik, we need to raise $15 million this year. What is your plan?
15 million?
15, 1-5. And I was like, let me ask, I'm always big about data and how and everything else. And I said to him, I was like, well, how many living alumni do we have? And at that point, we had 200,000 living alumni to our organization. We're one of the largest fraternities in the country, multiple chapters around the world and the country and everything else. But it was like, and then I asked the second question. I was like, okay, how many donors came to our foundation? I think the number was like 50. It was very small. It was like 50 to 60 individuals. But those 50 to 60 individuals funded all of our leadership programs, activities, everything else inside our institution, which was like the $10 to $15 million budget, right? Which was heavy major gifts. And I part of my language, I thought that was kind of bullshit. I was looking around the entire room and I was like, we're not curing cancer. We're not saving the world. We're developing leadership programs for young men to be better humans into our society. And I was like, what if we just go out there and ask as many people as we can to contribute something small and mighty that can grow into something for our organization? What we did is we hired gift officers straight out of college and who had a sales mindset. This is 2001, 2002 as well. So it's a lot different than where we are today. where I could hire gift officers where it was very sales driven, where we said, let's make 250 face-to-face visits in a year and hope 50% of them contribute. And the other spicy thing we did is, and this is back in the day, is we asked on every donor visit. You didn't do that back then. I remember getting like yelled at by organizations saying, hey, you need to cultivate, build a relationship, and then ask. But we were like, no, we don't have time to do that. So we really got into it's the precursor of the mid-level program or a monthly giving program where we would ask everybody for a $25 monthly contribution over a 5-year period, which equates to $300 a year to $1,500 over 5 years. Every single person got an ask right on the spot. But it was a really great experience because I would have my team, we would fly into a city Tuesday through Thursday, and we would visit with 10 to 12 individuals, over cups of coffee or in offices or homes or wherever it would be. That 45 minutes was the story, was setting the tone, building the relationship, talking about our case for support, talking about the opportunity, and then asking right there on the spot, and then moving on to the next person and doing it all over again.
I feel like most early on fundraisers would be like, all right, the easiest thing would be to just reach out to those major donors and be like, little more, please. But what you did was create a model that could scale this in the future. So now you've done the hard work of getting these people on board. As long as you're stewarding them well, that's like actually how you sustain a future for a nonprofit.
Yep. And it's even better. It goes deeper than that. You're spot on, but it goes deeper than that. Not only that, but like my staff. I had a mid-level gift officer and they'd be on the team for 2 years. And again, think about the numbers and the metrics. 250 face-to-face visits each year, 50% of them contribute. So 125 donors in that first year. Another 125 donors that second year. Then I promote that mid-level gift officer to a major gift officer and take those 250 donors and put them in their portfolio. So it's really relationship driven. We're not just hiring a major gift officer and saying, hey, here's a portfolio, go build a relationships with all these random people. It was already there. My mission moment of last year, and it was very spot on. One of those individuals that I've known, he's my age. I saw him at an event. And his name's Jason. He sat me down. He was like, hey, you don't remember this story, but I'll tell it to you. And he's like, and he's still working with our fraternity foundation as a volunteer. He's like, 20 some years ago, you asked me to give. And I said no. And, on the spot and everything else. And you did what every good fundraiser does. And it's the Starbucks rule. Remember, is like, hey, could you donate a Starbucks? And I went and I pivoted with him and I was like, do you drink beer with your fraternity brothers? And because we were at a fraternity event, he's like, yeah. I was like, would you donate $5 a month and give up a beer a month? And he's like, yeah, I can do that. Then he's like, the next year you called me and said, will you do $10 a month? And the next year you called me and you said, would you do $20 a month? And I did this. And I can remember parts of it. He's like, Erik, I have just passed $150,000 lifetime giving to the foundation.
Wow.
It started with the $5 gift. And that's where I love where his brain is, because he's on the board for this foundation.
Yep.
And it's not just year over year budgeting, year over year numbers and everything else. He sees the lifetime value of our donors and how you have to plant a seed to grow a tree to have success in the organization. And I think, to me, that still gives me chills every time I think about that story. And it's how many people do we touch? Of the 250 people in a year, 50% of them said no. But they may have given somewhere else,
Right.
and somewhere else in later down the line. They just said no right there.
Yeah, the butterfly effect, right? It might not have in the moment been a big splash, but it will create waves for the future. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Love that. Chills over here as well.
Yeah.
That's such a meaningful mission moment. Okay, you've got to tell me about this time that a donor pulled a gun on you. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
what?
no, it wasn't pulled a gun on me, but like I always had a thing where I would visit them wherever they wanted to. And I remember he was in West Virginia, and I don't want to say anything about so my wife was born. I love the state of West Virginia, but it was sitting at his desk, and literally there's a handgun sitting and pointing directly at me on his desk. And going in, and I was, I'm a son of a cop, and immediately I was like, I'm okay with guns. I understand them. I know how the rules and everything else. And I said to him, I was like, do you mind putting that away?
Yeah.
He's like, well, it's unloaded. I was like, cool. Can we put that away? And he wouldn't. And then I said, do you mind turning it around? So it went him instead.
At
Uh,
the very least, right? I'm like, what, do you feel like that was a strategy move for intimidation, people coming into his office? I'm
No,
confused.
he was the only individual. This is pre like tech, right? Where we
Yeah.
have all these opportunities. I always take my notebook with me and I would ask every single donor prospect, "Do you mind if I take notes?"
Mhm.
Because I have no good memory, so I had to write all these different things. And he was one of the few that said, "No, I don't want you to take any notes." And I was like, "Huh." But he donated. Fantastic gentleman, everything else. But once you get over that, it was like one of those moments where you just had to like check it out, check each other.
Right. Well, I mean, I guess that's the thing that, gosh, you don't even think about when you're reaching as many people as you've reached 5,000 face-to-face
Mm,
visits. It's a lot of personalities in there. You
there-
gotta be able to be a chameleon, yeah?
Yeah, well, that's very true. You had to like mirror the person. You have to understand how they
Yeah.
operate. I got to the point where even when you're sitting down having a meal, you know when to eat and when to pick up the forks and, and when to talk and when like how you don't want to be too aggressive or too domicile, but it's just that middle ground of being firm without being aggressive or assertive.
Yeah, and I love the mirroring principle.
Mhm.
I always had an old news producer who said, like, the cleanliness of the newscast and the attention that we take, it makes somebody like ours better and they don't even know why. Like, I
Yeah.
feel like that's kind of like when you can curate that experience for a donor or for somebody, it makes them feel seen and heard and appreciated. And they might not even realize the psychology behind it, but it's such a skill to develop as a fundraiser. Last one, because I have to know what this means. You said something about a woman with a shoe. What
Oh
are we
yeah.
talking?
Well, and it's like knowing your community. Like, so I selfishly, I had this rule of wherever I would do donor visits. I love, and it's awkward, and I get it, but I love meeting donors in a hotel lobby because
Okay.
everybody knows where the Marriott is. It's easy. It's free parking, clean restroom,
Yeah.
free Wi-Fi. If I can meet in the lobby, it's usually free coffee or something, some type of beverage. No
What?
wait staff is going to interrupt me in the middle of my donor visit. Like everything about it. Where it gets awkward is when a man asks a female to visit in a hotel lobby. That's the
Oh,
challenge. But
yeah.
that's where the openness was like just being open and frank and saying everything else. But I remember this one woman, professional person and everything else, and I was visiting with her and I saw her walking toward me. She's an attorney. I remember her being an attorney. And all I did was text my wife, "Red souls." And my wife, because I don't know, I like this is where you have to know your community. And my wife immediately wrote back, "Ask high."
Your wife is
Immediate.
so smart.
It's like what is it, the Louboutin shoes or
Louboutin,
something?
yeah, Christian
Yeah.
women.
She donated $50,000 right on the spot. And it's just like knowing what we know in the database, what we know, but going into the well screening, going into the prospect research, going into all those different things doesn't really matter, right? Like it does, but it's everything else. We all have different processes and perspectives and stories and messaging and issues. We got to be a counselor every once in a while,
Yeah.
a webinar itself. But the thing that also just stays with me is every single donor has walked me to the door, walked me to the elevator, walked me to the car, walked me to because they're excited. Like they're literally giving you a check and they're like, "Oh, I'm so passionate about your organization that you're serving,"
Yeah.
and they want to give you more and support you and the organization. So yeah, I think our community is awesome. I think
Well,
donors are awesome and just, the way they operate. So
I think, Eric, that might be a little bit of undue credit for yourself because the reason they're excited is because you're a great communicator. Like,
good
I don't
stories.
feel
That's it.
like
Yep.
every single fundraiser might get that experience, and the fact that every donor has walked you to the door means that you're doing your calling, my friend. So, I'm so glad that you're in this profession, not only driving real change for organizations, but also, like, setting the example for people to move forward in fundraising. Because
Oh, you're the
if you were
best.
doing something else, the world would be at a loss, my friend. I'm so glad
Oh,
that you're here with us.
it's a community. We're all in it together.
Well, 2 community people in the same room, I can agree with that very much. Well,
Heck yeah.
thank you for taking the time, again, while you're on the road for a conference
Yeah.
on top of your ironing board standing desk. Joining us today, it really, really means the world to me that you make time for us to share these stories because we are a little bit less connected nowadays, even with the endless connection on these devices. I feel like these stories just bring us together and make us remember why we do what we do. So thank you for your time, my
You're awesome.
friend.
Thanks for creating this. This is fantastic.
Of course, of course. All right, for everybody listening, you know the drill. This is your weekly reminder to hydrate and practice self care. Very important right? And if it helps and you want to submit your own diary entry and be featured on the podcast, there is a link in the description. I would love to have a chat with you. So until next time, take care, everybody. We'll see you on the next episode.